All right, everybody, we're testing right now. I'm gonna give you a 1-2 test.
1-2 test.
Oh my!
Got a few interesting things I would like to mention and discuss and volley back and forth. So
Sure.
excited for this opportunity, sir.
So yeah, so just like we were just before, I'm gonna do a little. So we're gonna just. I'm gonna do a little intro for a second,
Okay.
and then I'm gonna introduce you, and then you introduce yourself, and then we can talk. And this, like, I have the microphones turned pretty low, but the headphones are high. So if you notice, like, this is this. It's like really there's a sweet spot like right there.
Okay. Yeah.
Radio, baby.
I
And then
feel
also,
that.
if you can see up there, I just put that up there just in case you can see. Like, as I talk here, it's not so good, but if I talk over here, it's a little better.
Got it.
It's just like,
Yeah, beautiful.
Technology, man.
Beauty. It's a beauty.
Okay, so, all right, ready, go. It's intro. Hey, everybody, welcome to the show. I'm so excited. It's a Saturday here late in the summer of 2016. We have a very special guest today. His name is Angud. Bye.
Hello.
Angud, you've been so generous to give me your time for a little bit. You showed up at my place. You commuted via city bike to me.
I'm a commuter.
He's a commuter. Tell us a little bit about yourself and just tell us who you are.
So I'm a young man. I would like to think.
He's a man.
I'm from LA. Went to high school out there. Forged some sort of identity out there. It sticks with me. Moved to New York in 2009, and kind of wanted to be in the big city and whatnot. And
Get those big city dreams.
didn't even know what I was gonna do out here. Even when I got out here, found a construction gig. Then was a teacher and did some other random shit. And now I am in law school, and I'm actually finishing my third year. And I haven't quite nailed down what I'm going to do afterwards, but I'm pretty sure it'll have something to do with practicing law.
Yes. That's the big conundrum of going to law school and then figuring out what you want to do after.
Yeah. I mean, I was in a position at one point where it was pretty clear what I was going to do based on, like, the direction the different experiences I had were going. But I kind of recalibrated and did an inventory of, my life and my 5-year plan and what's satisfying to me, what's not satisfying, how important money is, blah, blah, blah. And now I'm kind of, I'm pivoting. I'm doing a pivot. I'm doing a Donald Trump pivot, but it's a genuine pivot, and I'm reassessing things.
He's pivoting.
So while I'm in school now, I'm still pounding the pavement and looking for opportunities that are more aligned with the new goals that I have for myself.
One thing I think is very important, pounding the pavement in any industry you do is very important. It's a metaphor that works for real estate, which what I do. And I just think, constantly prospecting.
Yeah.
You have to prospect.
Totally. And I think, like, a lot of people view networking as like a chore. I think it's a joy for some people, and I envy those people. Or don't envy those people, I respect those people. I respect that approach they have to the act of networking. But for me, like, networking, it doesn't wow, that was amazing. Let me just describe what happened. Marcus just popped the beer top and it flew up to the ceiling, hit the ceiling fan, startled the chill dog. The dog went back to chilling, but I've never seen that before. Anyway, this is radio after all. So networking, it's not just about, for me, like, getting connections that will actually do something for you and, like, progress your career. It's also just information gathering.
Of course.
So that it just becomes this sort of pool of knowledge that you can draw upon in some interview or in some other networking situation you find yourself in. So you sound more like you know what the fuck you're talking about. And a lot of times you don't need to be like, here's my business card. It's more just like flattering somebody, asking them questions, getting them to, like, reveal things to you, and then using that in the future.
Well, also, that's the thing. Everybody, I think one of the most valuable things is that everybody likes someone who's interested in you when it comes to dating, personal things, even just, bromances, professional relationships. You just like people who are interested in you.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the sweetest sound in the English language is your own name, like.
Does it?
Everyone, it's Angud. Just like,
Does it
Could melt chocolate with that.
does it, doesn't it like for dogs? Isn't it's like the Pavlovian dog? Even for humans, it activates neurons in your serotonin or something. I'm not a scientist.
Totally. No, you're totally right. I mean, I wonder if that translates to like a prison setting where your identity is basically effaced and you become a number. Do you still get the pleasure of like hearing your name when you hear your identity as a number? Is that you still get the Pavlovian dog response when it's like 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, like roll call?
I highly doubt it. I think
it robs you of that pleasure. I think it's intentionally designed to rob you of that pleasure.
that's why they don't address you by your name in prison unless you get your own nickname.
Yeah, but even the prison guards won't call you that. Unless you're like running shit like the dude in Night of.
Yeah, unless you're homies.
Unless you're homies with the prison. Unless like the prison guard is Rick Ross and you're like in the fucking situation where you're smuggling drugs into prison.
And he's like, yes, and this is a good book. Make a rap out there.
I fucking give props to Rick Ross because I think for the average rapper, like you have some level of success and then it comes out that you were a fucking prison guard, essentially representing everything
the institution
that is like what you are opposed to in your professional career, like an institutional man. And he totally flipped it. And he was like, I was in prison to run drugs into prison and make money. I wasn't in prison to like oppress people and beat them with a fucking stick.
Was that the deal? I didn't really
That's what he said.
I'm a headline guy to Rick Ross,
What's a fact is that he was a prison guard.
Yes,
What's
true.
a speculation is that he was a prison guard because he wanted to run drugs into prison. But he did a great job of pivoting. Maybe that's like the theme. Maybe that's the fucking theme of the evening.
On good pivots.
An Angud pivot.
An Angud pivot.
But I mean, I would say like, well on him for doing that. That's like making not just like neutralizing that, but actually like utilizing it to improve your own like how people perceive you in that game.
Well, I also, one of my big things is I feel one of everybody, especially in society in the digital age and just moving forward, identity and having one identity for people, it causes a lot of problems for people. You're like, I am a soccer player, or I grew up and I was the chess champion, and now I've graduated school and I have to be X, Y, and Z. Why can't you just be a bunch of things? I could be a plumber and a dog lover. And really good at doing my laundry.
Or even like, yeah. I mean, or even
expert laundry maker.
Beyond just I am or I was. Maybe I will be is problematic to the idea of identity because then you're sort of disguising your plans as accomplishments. But I think, identity is fluid and you should lead with what the most pertinent identity facet for you is, not for what the fucking question asker is, because like they're the one who's like asking you to sort of construct your own identity on the spot, and you give them what you view yourself as, and then you give them also what you think they want to see you as, depending on the situation. But I think, dude, like I'm a great fucking laundry folder. Like that's a big part of my identity. I get a lot of fucking serotonin rush when I do that shit right. I think about that every day.
So, all right. So let's go back to what you were talking about before. You are a law student, but most recently, if you're okay with talking about this, I kind of sprang on you. What has been your experience in New York City with law? Can you talk about specific things?
I can regale you. So I kind of.
We can also just talk about cartoons. But.
No, we'll talk about fucking anything. I will say generally though, I got into law because I wanted to be in a courtroom. I had this like fantasy, like suit and tie, Your Honor, I object. This is a travesty of justice, blah blah blah. And also like, you can't see on the radio, but I'm a bearded man. I wear a turban when I go to work. Basically, my rule is if I'm not wearing a tie, I'm not wearing a turban. But if I have to wear a tie, I'm gonna wear a turban. So that's my rule.
Why? Why is that?
Because, okay, multiple reasons. I am a Sikh. I don't cut my hair. I'm not religious, but I have devised my own independent reasons for growing my hair and maintaining my own cultural identity. And when I am dressed in like a professional setting, I want that turban to be incorporated into that professional identity. Because A, it's part of how I distinguish myself physically.
Oh, definitely.
And B, it sort of like gives the turban added meaning for me. It's like something I take seriously. Because I'm in a serious environment, I take the turban seriously. And it's not like I disrespect it in other contexts, but when I'm chilling, I want to fucking drink, I want to clown, I want to scheme, I want to smoke, and I don't want to like do that with the turban on. I know that sounds like major hypocrisy duality.
It's okay.
But that's kind of how I have compartmentalized things and made it a workable thing. But the idea is, yeah, if I have a tie, I have a turban. And then I step into a court and, 85% of law clerks, for example, are white. Majority, interestingly enough, are women, white women.
Okay.
But the vast majority are white. So in a courtroom setting, you're going to find yourself surrounded by decision makers, judges included, who are white. And then you fucking step there with your turban, and I think there's like a beauty in that, because you're taking, in a sense, you're like the individual and also not an individual, because if you whatever you say, you'll be like remembered all the more for saying it because you're the guy with the turban that tried this case, and you'll be remembered for that. Additionally, if you do a bad job, every other Sikh that precedes you will be kind of marred with the bad act that you did. And furthermore, every good act that you did, that will be translated to an expectation that every proceeding Sikh in that same situation will be held to. So if I'm that proceeding Sikh, in a way, it's like a lose-lose. Because on the one hand, the guy in front of me who looked just like me could have fucked up, and now it's going to, prejudice me. On the other hand, the guy in front of me is maybe way smarter, more capable, more experienced than me, blew it out the fucking water, and now I'm held to the standard that I can never live up to. So it's like, as a proceeding Sikh, it can never really serve to my advantage. And I think in a way, you're never kind of seen as like the expert laundry folder. Like that can't be part of your identity. You're not an individual. You become like this ambassador, and you can't.
The ambassador for the Sikh wearing head turban.
Yeah, the Sikh turban wearers. Yeah, you are always, everything is imputed to you, and everything you do is imputed to people who look like you, and it's all like through you that this identity is formed, and that's why, like, okay, here's what I find interesting. It's like if a Sikh guy goes out and just does something stupid, but not something like so stupid that other people would never do it in other groups. Every other Sikh, when they find out about it, cringes, because they're like, that's the fucking last thing we need right now.
Yeah.
We already got so much presumptions that work against us in place that people have through the media, through ignorance, through whatever. And we don't need to be like helping it out by fucking up on our own. But at the same time, by holding ourselves to this like model minority standard, we kind of rob ourselves of our own fucking individuality and freedom to experiment and fuck up.
Well, and
that's not something, for example, white people have to deal with. I think it's like, if Marcus did something uncommonly crazy, it wouldn't.
I would never do anything like that.
Oh, white people are, wow. Did you hear about this Marcus guy? What does that say about white people? Like, no one ever.
Yeah. Oh, that's true.
No one ever thinks that. And it goes the other way around too. It's like, if you do something great, it's not like everybody is going to hold every other white person to this like unreasonably high Marcus standard.
Well, but I mean, listen, but with court cases all the time, it's white people get away with murder. No, they get away with the other R word. That's not even the R word. Let's not talk about that. But so your experience working in the courts in New York, what exactly was your role? Because you were still in law school, and so like I know like as a medical student, you can still operate or see people. How does that when you're in your final years of law school? How does that work?
Yeah, so there are rules that govern this. The rules that govern this. You have to be, under a supervised attorney. You're held to certain ethical practices, and any violation of those ethical rules will, basically render you ineligible for passing the bar. You won't get your license to practice law.
So it's like an apprenticeship.
It's an apprenticeship, but there are rules. Like for example, if I'm working for an attorney and I violate some ethical rule while I'm working for that attorney will get in trouble because and this is all assuming this is all found out and then brought to the bar's attention, and the committee hears it and then they fucking decide what they're gonna do. My supervising attorney will get in trouble, but I, as an individual law student, will also get in trouble.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it'll also,
even though you're a student.
Yeah, this will affect it's called the character and fitness section of your bar. You have to disclose any sort of actions taken against you by agencies or whatever, and this would be something that you would disclose.
Okay.
And then with this information, the committee that decides who passes, who fails the bar, will receive it and decide whether you fail. So there are standards you're held to, but mostly it is an apprenticeship. And what I've done in that capacity is I work for judges, I've worked for prosecutors, I've worked for law firms, and I'm just doing. Essentially, what I do is I get a case, and there's a legal issue.
Yeah.
If you destroy something that is going to be used as a commercial good for a business.
So, for instance, example.
Yeah. Okay. So, if I'm running a sports car racing company.
Okay.
So you pay me money, you can drive these fancy sports cars, and that's the business that I run.
Yeah.
And so I'm the business owner. I'm the business owner of the sports racing car company. I buy a fancy sports car from Maine, let's say, and I live in LA.
Because Maine is a fancy sports car mecca for everybody.
Exactly.
All your Maine,
all those open roads carving through the forest.
Wait, how many Maine friends do you have?
Dude, I actually have deep roots in Maine.
But do they ride sports cars?
No, they usually ride boats.
Yeah, or Subarus.
They're in the island chains, or Subarus I think are popular on the mainland. But if I buy a car and then I hire a carrier, a transport company, to transport this car, and this transport company destroys the car in transport, through their own negligence, whatever. Sure. The fucking driver is drunk, whatever. Then I can sue them. But what can I sue them for? That's the legal issue I would be faced with as a researcher. So in that case, I'd be like, okay, you could sue them definitely for the value of the car. Because you paid for that car, and because of their actions, you don't have the car. So to be put in the position that you would have been in if they didn't destroy the car, to put you in your original position, basically, if they didn't act negligently, right?
Okay.
They would have to at least pay you for the value of the car. But then if I'm trying to get creative and I want to make this a worthwhile case for the attorney to take on,
Okay.
you have to increase the value of damages because the attorney gets paid on a contingency. He gets paid a percentage of the damages.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
This is a lot. Am I laying it on thick?
No, it's laying on thick. But I was gonna circle back around.
Okay.
Because
let me just finish.
Yeah, you finish first.
Just so the added wrinkle you could add as a researcher to kind of enrich this case and make it more attractive for a lawyer to take on is to say, look, it's a car that got destroyed. You should get the money for the value of the car. Clearly. But also, because the car is going to be used for commercial purposes, you should get money for lost profits. Meaning, the time that you were going to use the car and make money from it that was lost to you because they destroyed the car, that money should go to you in addition to the cost of the destruction of the car.
So this is my big thing. We live in America, and it's a big country, and we're all about suing people.
Oh yeah.
I hate getting sued. I've gotten sued one time. It was nonsense, but it was basically the long and short of it. I broke the law. It was a very specific law for New York. And basically my lawyer was like, yeah, at the end of the day, they're an ambulance chaser, but you're going to lose. And that's the end of the story. And that was his thing. And I was like, okay. Do you also two things. Our society is so litigious.
Yeah. Yes.
And on top of that, there's been in the last, I guess I would say 2007 to 2014, 2016, there's been a huge boom in postgraduate degrees because undergraduate, everyone's got an undergraduate now. You could go anywhere. But the law school degree has been like the extension of like the liberal arts degree almost.
Definitely.
So
you don't need to know any math.
No, exactly. So, but also, and then there was a big problem for a while that people didn't have jobs after that too. Like, I know a lot of people are going into compliance and things like that. Like,
yeah.
Where do you see the future of a law degree? And do you think it's useful? Where do you think, where are all these law students? You're going to be there very soon.
Yeah.
So where do you see your future in the hypothetical wave of law school students moving forward?
Yeah, that's a great question. So several things in response to the several questions you raised.
I'm really good at posing one question at a time. So,
well, okay. So, firstly, there is a glut of lawsuits in the U.S., particularly
in general,
in the U.S. So it distinguishes us actually from Europe,
specifically the U.S.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the lawsuits that come out are what they call nuisance lawsuits. You just sue somebody because you know in their mind they're going to do a calculation where, like, the cost of defending this lawsuit is greater than the amount of money that your enemy wants to take from you in the form of like a proposed settlement.
My specific example.
Yeah. So they kind of like give you an offer you can't refuse, essentially, and then you settle.
You
with
literally
them.
cannot refuse it because you're going to be effed in the A.
Yeah. And I think that is a huge problem, but it's basically a weakness in the system that people have exploited. So there's two ways of looking at it. Is it the people and their own litigiousness that's the problem? Or is it the fact that the system is created in such a way that there's an incentive to be this litigious? I think it's the latter, you know?
So you're saying there's an incentive in the system to be a
I wouldn't sue you if I didn't see any financial incentive to suing you.
But so let me give you a specific example. I was on the New Jersey Transit sometime in 2013. Some dude bopped us in the back. It was not a problem. He just hit the car. He hit the bus. I don't know whose fault it was. I didn't care. I just had to get to work. I was late to work. Whatever. But I got like 15 letters from a law firm to sue them. I'm like, I'm not going to sue the New Jersey Transit. Like, I could have, and I probably could have got some money, but did I really want to do that? Probably not.
Yeah.
And like, come on. This is everything now. Like,
Yeah.
what are we doing? What are we doing here?
Dude, that's a different situation, but
Also, this is I don't know if the New Jersey Transit is public or private.
It is public, yeah.
It's public.
That's what makes it different.
This is a public service that the government does for us. It helps us get to work. Like, I don't find any benefit from suing them.
So I feel the same way. And furthermore, it's not just like, okay, this is a big payday for you if you win. If you can prove that the city is negligent for providing the service, in the providing of this service they were negligent, whatever, you win like some fucking payday. Great. But what happens? Like, what are the unintended consequences of you winning? They raise the fares for everybody,
including you.
I mean, the amount of money increased money they impose upon you is less than your payday for beating them in court. But still, it's like kind of fucked up that we all pool our money together in the form of taxes to pay for these services that benefit everybody, that make this city livable and enjoyable and one of the best cities on earth.
Problem about real estate values.
Yeah, and you know yeah, public transportation, the efficiency of it is directly tied to real estate value.
Obviously,
sure.
yes, of course.
And to increase the cost of public transportation by forcing these public transportation providers to defend and settle these fucking bullshit lawsuits when no one's really at fault. There's just like some case and you want to go to trial because juries are irrational, and if like you can make it there, it's like, you know, is to really impose a cost on all of us and all of society. And so, it's kind of like, I think it's selfish. At the same time, if like you're a father of like a family of 5,
yes,
and you get fucking maimed and you work in construction and you can't work in construction anymore, you have to, you know, be put in a position where you can still provide for your family. I mean, you would fight for that.
So I think that's a perfect example. So that's a perfect. We have a cute little puppy here. He can't talk on the microphone because he's a dog and he doesn't know how to speak the English language. But this is a perfect example. Oh shit. Oh, perfect example.
So I said a guy got maimed and he had a family and he still wants to provide for his family, so he sues to get money to provide.
Oh man, cute dogs ruining my train of thought here. Oh, this is bad. Anyways, so someone has to provide for their family. I understand loss of wages, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, so let's get to something else you said in your initial kind of question. We talked. You said, okay, we live in a litigious society, and there's like a glut essentially in the market for lawyers. So I think what you were implying is like.
Sorry.
I think
okay,
you recalled.
We're coming back. This is my point. Okay.
I have no recollection of that, sir.
Okay, sorry. I never spoke out loud because you guys are hearing that. I apologize. I'm supposed to be an interviewer and understand. Just be good at this. Okay, mandatory prosecution, right?
Okay.
In a situation where you have a class action lawsuit or something like that, or like you don't have to sue someone. There's in certain cities, in certain states, there's mandatory prosecution for things where common sense and reason could just wash it under the rug. Maybe money, maybe not, maybe this, maybe that. In America, do you think there's a future where we're going to go into a space where we can be a little bit more like, I'm not going to sue you? Like, I feel like the word you're going to get sued gets thrown around all the time.
Yeah. I think you're right. And I just want to clarify one thing. Prosecution is usually in criminal cases. You prosecute a case against the criminal defendant. Suing is a civil case. You're suing somebody for damages, usually money.
It's very important to know the verbatim or the verbiage.
Yeah, because there are a lot of cases where there's, you know, in criminal law, there's prosecutorial discretion, like you're saying, meaning the prosecutor decides whether he wants to bring a case against a defendant or not. But in a civil lawsuit, that's always up to the plaintiff, like an individual. So the individual is not like somebody who works in an office that is elected and has to satisfy all these constituencies and stuff, whatever. But okay, to the meat of the question, I do see a future where suing is kind of going to be seen as, I hope for this, sort of like some
rude,
like kind of obsolete in a way, because the point of like, okay, for example, there's this lawyer scholar, his name is Ronald Coase, and he's basically saying suing is a way of reallocating resources, and it's inefficient. Because
terribly inefficient.
Because really, if the result that you were aiming for is just negotiation, then the purpose of suing is just to force the negotiation.
Yeah.
So if you're a farmer and you're downstream from a chemical plant, right? And you're the farmer, you've been there first. The chemical plant makes $100 million, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You make, let's say, $1 million as a farmer. Okay? The farmer can sue the chemical plant, right? And the chemical plant, basically, if it settles for some amount less than $100 million, it's worth it to the chemical plant to settle.
Yeah.
Because it's still making a profit. And if you're the farmer, you'll accept anything over $1 million because that's profitable to you.
Okay.
So, like,
Okay.
if you're forced to stop farming because of this chemical plant and you sue them because you're forced to stop farming because they've polluted your shit, you'll accept any amount of money they offer you that's above $1 million. Because what you were making as a farmer is $1 million. Do you know what I'm saying? I can rephrase this.
Well, are there repercussions for suing? Like, that's one of my big things.
So there is. But my point is, like,
It doesn't seem like that to me.
You're faced with this transactional cost.
You know?
Yeah. Where, like,
So.
the social value of the chemical plant is greater than the social value of the farmer. And the chemical plant is in the position to offer the farmer money to stop farming. The farmer is not in a position to offer the chemical plant to stop operating.
Because he's a farmer.
Because he's a farmer and he can't afford $101 million. However, the chemical plant can afford $2 million. So the point of the farmer suing the chemical plant is to bring the chemical plant to the negotiating table and force them to offer him some amount of money greater than $1 million. Right?
Yeah, I got that.
So if we just take suing out of the picture, okay, and we just had some mechanism for bringing these parties together where the chemical plant could offer the farmer some amount greater than $1 million and they would end up settling anyway, then essentially you've taken the courts out of the mix. We pay for these courts. They're public.
Obviously, yeah, we pay for these courts all the time,
so
man.
if we could get to a more efficient way of negotiation, then the courts sort of become obsolete, at least with respect to this function. And I think we could be headed there. We could be headed to a place where, like, we see that, look, at the end of the day, I'm going to have to fucking offer you money. And at the end of the day, I'm in this position to offer you this amount of money. This is going to have to happen when you beat me in court anyway.
Yeah.
But just avoid the whole court thing, and I'll do it from the get. And we'll save money, both private and public. I won't have to pay an attorney. You won't have to pay an attorney. And the citizens of whatever state we're living in don't have to pay the judge and whatever.
So I've had a couple.
Does that make sense?
It did.
Okay.
I said it did. I'm like, it did. So I have a couple different questions. I've had a couple experiences with the law, right?
Also, I'm not an attorney. Nothing I say should be interpreted as legal advice.
Oh, listen.
I should have said that like 20 minutes ago.
Time out. Let's just cut to commercial break here. And everything in this podcast is
Marcus,
is
maybe you could edit that and like make that part come first.
This is all satire, and everything's a comedy. Where this is it's an exploratory comedy podcast.
Yeah,
so
I am speaking in
we're just having a good time.
Official capacity.
So, anyway, but listen, so if there was a different mechanism besides suing somebody, what would it be? Like, let me give a specific example. A couple years ago, I'm a real estate agent in New York. We have a lot of very specific housing laws, very tenant heavy favorite housing laws, which I'm in favor of. I wrote an advertisement. It got syndicated to another website. Just dog, stop. What are you doing? Anyways, so we got syndicated to another website. I put some language on my advertisement that was in violation of New York's
Fair Housing Act or something.
Fair Housing, but specifically in employment discrimination, which only exists in New York.
So it's like a city law.
So basically, it's a difference between employment and income, right? So, long story short, they took a screen grab of an advertisement I made, and I basically just was like, because for me, I'm all about efficiency. I'm like, listen, don't even show up to my property without paperwork. Like, I don't want to hear about you. I don't want to see you.
Yeah.
No, like, sure, come hang out with me. But like in terms of biz, in terms of the biz, come correct.
Yeah.
Right.
Like have a certain amount of set income.
Yes. So
if you want to be taken seriously.
Yes. Yeah. So the long story short, this person screen grabbed this guy screen grabbed an advertisement I made, sent it to his lawyer, ambulance chaser. He was on unemployment and disability from the city. And he was like, basically, you're discriminating against me. I never met him, never talked to him, never had a phone call with him, didn't show up to any of my open houses. But he basically sued me for around $40,000. And I was like, I went to my senior broker at the time, remain nameless. And they were like, I was like,
so
hey,
they sent a letter to you individually?
No,
or to
no. They sent to my company.
Real estate?
They sent to my company. And my contract with them was basically like, we don't cover this. Like, we don't cover this. Even though I paid them insurance, we won't. Let's not get into that.
Okay. So you're kind of on your own in that.
Basically, the owner of the company that I worked at the time was like, listen, you should check your contract. We don't cover this. We're not covering this. Here's an attorney who was his brother, which is fine. He was great. But basically, he gave me the straight story. He's like, you're not going to win this. Just like, it's just not going to happen. If you go to court, you're going to lose. They knew that. I went and researched them online. Ambulance chasers to the T.
They do this all the time.
All the time. He sued Modern Family because he submitted like a TV show pilot to some studio one time because they had a couple gay like main parts.
Okay.
Let's not go further into the character of this. But long story short, I had to pay the guy to just like go away.
Yeah.
Like,
it's a nuisance suit.
Yeah, and also like at the time I'm 27, 26-year-old trying to do my business. A couple $1,000 is
it's a lot of money.
Huge deal. It's a huge deal, you know. So like come on, how do you protect yourself against stuff like that? Like, is it a difference in the society, or just people need to be aware? What's the deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, so in your position, so they're suing you because the ad itself is discriminatory, I assume.
I was in violation
on that basis.
I was in violation of the law.
Yeah, some statutory law.
For sure, but just specifically for New York. And you know what? It was not hurting anybody. Like, we would, if he came and he proved his basically I used employment versus income, and it's a verbiage thing.
So I think probably like the damages he claimed were what's called statutory damages. They're not like personal damages. Maybe there were as well, but like, so if it's a statute, if it's like a New York City law, then in the law itself, it could include a provision that says something like, if the ad is found in violation of this statute, then for every day that it's open to it's viewable by the public, you're entitled to $1,000, something like that. And
never again.
And so
please.
He may have sued you and then claimed statutory damages or something. So, but to your point about, your question about how to protect yourself, I mean, look, like, it's this way with every industry. That real estate is like a huge, huge component of New York City life.
Yeah,
and it's a highly regulated industry. I mean, I think that the city attempts to highly regulate it.
Attempt is the key word.
Public housing, rent control, rent stabilization, tenants' rights. I mean, we're not talking about fucking Memphis, Tennessee. We're talking about New York City. Like, these laws exist in New York City, and they don't even. I think maybe I don't even know if they exist in Chicago. Really, I know LA and San Francisco. Maybe San Francisco is the only more tenant-friendly city in the U.S. I don't know.
You also the one thing about New York is that we are the biggest immigrant city in the whole entire. Probably the world. Probably the world. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I definitely think so.
That's one of the reasons I love New York is because anywhere you go, someone's got a story coming from somewhere. Like, like for me, Irish Catholic guy, half German, shot, whatever. How'd your parents come here?
They both came from Delhi. My dad moved here when he was 16. And then he went back to India, got an arranged marriage, brought my mom out here, and they relocated to LA. So I think about it, like, sometimes, like, could I have done what they did?
Maybe.
maybe, but like just what they did was basically it would be like me moving to India right now. It's like I don't speak any. I mean, I speak some Hindi, but I don't really speak any Hindi. Like my dad learned English from John Wayne movies that he watched after he moved here.
That's cool though. That's good
And
stuff.
just fucking starting over completely, totally different culture, totally different language, and not only to just adjust but to thrive, and then have kids that are so fucking. Like take it for granted. They're like they do podcasts. Goddammit!
Listen, we're teaching the we're teaching the people. We're teaching the people. Okay,
But-
we're doing what we gotta do. But listen,
But it's like moving to another planet. Like I'm sure it had that cultural shock effect on them. It was that disruptive.
But it was listen. It was a different time. It was a different generation. Like listen. Also, the one thing that I've been thinking about a lot is that I'm so thankful to grow up in the time that I did, because you and I we're in a similar age generation, right? One weird thing, I saw some meme on the internet, and they're like, "Oh, it's official that 9/11 is officially a historical event for kids in high school now because they weren't even born."
Yeah. Crazy,
and I'm like,
crazy.
Yeah, I was a freaking sophomore in high school, and that was defined everything.
I was on the bus to high school when I heard about it, and I remember a girl on the bus, Jen.
Yeah.
Her father at the time was in New York, and she was like hysterically crying on the bus. But so my point is, it's not just a historical event; it's like a personal thing. And then I don't know. I don't mean to interrupt you, but.
Oh, listen.
I've
never been interrupted,
dude. This fucking thing, this 9/11 changed my whole shit, my life, my identity, my existence, my feeling of comfort in society, everything. It was like
just interrupt here. Just because it's an audio format, Angud is of Indian descent. He could easily be taken by mistake as a terrorist. He's got a big ass beard. He wears what's the word?
Turban.
Is it always? I always thought turban was Middle East. It's also Indian.
Turban is a general. It's like a generic term for something you tie around your head.
Okay.
In certain cultures.
So I grew up in New Jersey, and I'm I'm half Irish, half German, which is pretty much half of all the white people in America. So I pretty much have an awesome lot. I'm fairly good looking. As I think. I mean, like
he's got a face for radio, guys.
Listen, let's don't even get it. We're gonna picture up in here somewhere, but just to give a visual.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Yeah, so,
it's a different situation.
Yeah, I'm not saying woe is me or any shit like that.
Woe is him.
But it's so weird, like you're saying, like for these kids who were born after 9/11, it's something they only kind of relate to in a
textbook.
In a textbook, like in an abstract sense, not in a concrete sense. Whereas for me, this whole thing was like I remember like my parents telling me like, okay, shit has changed.
Why? Wait. So, Samuel, let me interrupt. Because you're because of your skin color and you wear turban and type of things like that, or what do you think?
Yeah. Well, so 3 days after 9/11, this gas station owner in Phoenix, Arizona,
which a lot of Indian people own gas stations.
Yeah, a lot of Indian people, a lot of Punjabis, and furthermore, a lot of turban-wearing Sikhs.
Okay.
And this gas station owner was shot to death 3 days after 9/11.
Just for the fuck of it?
No, so they caught the guy, and the guy, he was contrite, but he was basically like, I shot him because these fucking people like him bombed the Twin Towers. And so there it is. So, I mean, things like this, there have been multiple hate crimes, hundreds of hate crimes, not just against Sikhs, but against Muslims, against people who are mistaken for Muslims. Even like Sikhs are attacked because they're Sikhs. Because they're like, we don't fucking care if you're Muslim or not. Like, you're just a foreigner, therefore we're gonna fucking attack your shit. And then they shot up a Sikh temple in Wisconsin. there's just been multiple the blowback on the Sikh community has been immense, and there's been a lot of like struggle in the Sikh community. How to deal with this like on an institutional level,
also
like,
an emotional level.
yeah, like
a
but like
personal level.
how to organize and like lobby and make ourselves politically effective or whatever. Yeah, and be like what you're saying, like individually, like what do you say to your kid? Like, how do you sit on the edge of the bed and be like, son, daughter, the world has changed? Like,
well, this is
how do you have this conversation? There is no fucking rule book for this. There is no manual for how to do this. I mean, this is what parenting is, but also it's like, it's not it's like, I wouldn't say it's equivalent to, but it is similar to what a black father or mother may have to say to a black son
right now in 2016, right?
And like right now and probably forever. It's just we're noticing it now. But, how you should act when you're in the presence of the police and how they, even though you know who you are and know what you're up to and you're fucking fine and whatever, you may not be perceived that way, and you need to take that into consideration in terms of like how you act. Like, that's a very difficult situation because, like, not that I can speak to it, I've never been a father, but in a way you're kind of like admitting your own defeat. Like you're like, son, I can't protect you. You gotta protect yourself. That's fucking hard.
Yeah, it's fucking really hard. Well, also just in my personal circumstance, like when I grew up, I grew up. I'm a grown ass man now, but when I was a little boy, I grew up in Singapore. So I was in an international community, a lot of white people, but I was like the minority. For the majority, I was minority. Oh man, rhyming. But when I came back to school, I went to my parents. My parents are Irish Catholic. They're German, Polish, and they put me back into an Irish Catholic school. And like I was like, oh man, there's so many white people. This is different. I didn't realize it was a thing. And then eventually I realized it was like a thing. And it's I come from a liberal background where people try to pretend like they're liberal and this whatever, but you know what I mean, at the end of the day, people have biological associations in their mind or nurture associations in their mind that are deeply ingrained.
I think it's strictly a social construction. I think race as a biological matter is completely a myth.
Okay, so
it actually is no biological significance of race.
Yes, listen.
As far as my understanding is that.
Oh, listen. So, also with this podcast here, we try to talk about anthropological things, cultural things, bringing people together, exploring options. But I agree. I do believe it's socially constructed, but if you're not presented with all the proper information, it's a situation where you're a victim of you're
vulnerable to what you're saying, the biological explanation of race.
Your conditioning is a result of your biological situation, of the movement of peoples and the color of your skin and all that stuff.
So let me touch a touchstone, as it were.
Do not touch it in a weird way, though.
Can I fondle your touchstone?
Fondle my touchstone real quickly.
So, like, the caste system in India is
perfect example.
Is based on human beings' relation to the sun, and Aryan means people of the sun, and it's not the case today. I don't think it's been the case even historically at this point, but there's been a sort of association with light is good, dark is bad. But
it's been flipped recently.
It's been flipped, I think, and it also just, in the sense it's been reclaimed, but initially, like the caste system, the hierarchy was constructed around this idea that the closer you are to the sun, the source of life, the more ennobled of a human being you are. And Aryan itself, the root means, of the sun, people of the sun. You can fact check that. I think at least
we never fact check anything. We never fact check anything on this show. This is also, that's a fact.
This is one of the disclaimers that
one fact is that we do not fact check.
We do not fact check. We don't give us money and we'll hire a fact checker. But until then, get what you pay for, which is $0.
But listeners can fact check anyway. So closer to the sun.
Closer to the sun, you're higher up in the social hierarchy. You're meant to. So that the hierarchy. It's not just that you rule people, you're supported by everyone beneath you. So you're kind of in a position to intellectualize whatever and run the government, tell people what God means, essentially. Like you're the priest class. Meanwhile, everyone else is doing the shit that really society requires to be functional. Cleaning the streets, tanning the leather, milking the cows,
smacking the horses,
growing the weed, smacking the horses, fucking the goats. Like they're doing all the necessary tasks.
We're not going to comment on that last thing you said. That's what makes society run.
Meanwhile, you're just pontificating in the sort of sanctity and coolness of your own citadel on the basis of the skin color that you possess. So I think that from as ancient as it gets in terms of like, is skin color associated with some biological difference in human beings, or is it purely socially constructed? I think the most ancient evidence that we have is the caste system in India. And even that was a deeply it was a social invention, essentially. And like, I just want to put one footnote on this, and I'm going to give a shout out to Mr. Maddock, my high school.
What up, Mr. Maddock?
My high school history teacher, world history.
Hashtag Mr. Maddock.
I know you just copied your lessons from the teacher's manual. We all discovered that, but
we love him anyways.
I still remember it, so I owe you a little this or that. The Dravidians were the race of people who lived in India before the Aryans came from Indo-European countries. And the Dravidians were very dark-skinned. They resemble the South Indians today. And the Indo-Europeans were light-skinned. They kind of resemble the Aryans today, like Iran, Aryan. The Aryans were from this part of the world. The Aryans migrated to India. So they had to penetrate the Himalayas. It was all crazy and shit. But they were only sort of able to get, to the north part.
Their genes must have been really strong to do that, right?
They're conquerors, fucking Alexander.
That was a joke.
Okay,
if anybody didn't know that was a joke, that was a joke. I'm joking around.
But it is interesting to think just the sort of tribe that coincidentally happened to be light-skinned or genetically lighter had it in them to be a sort of conquering mentality. And I think that had such a fucking... Let me just, do some pop theorization of how everything happened.
Pop theorizing.
That is what created our value of whiteness over blackness. And the Indo-Europeans, they penetrated northern India, which is why northern Indians are lighter skinned, but they didn't make it much further than northern India, which is why southern Indians are more Dravidian. They're shorter. They have different facial features, even different teeth. They're much darker.
Oh, yes, of course.
So it's pretty crazy how skin color changes over time.
But Angud, let's take it back. So I've had an extensive travel experience in India. Love the country. I'm a New Jersey white boy, but in my early 20s when I traveled there, loved it. Changed my life.
Word.
Blew my mind. The sense of community. I come from an Irish Catholic background, and we're very cold. I love
the warmth, the color.
The warmth, the color, also just the accepting of everybody around me, right? Mm-hmm. But it's funny. I studied anthropology in school.
Which is why you're such a fantastic interviewer.
Oh, lovely. Thank you. What a nice guy. Oh my God. I did not pay him to do that. But also in the early, 1600s, whatever, being fair skinned was such the thing. Right?
Yeah.
And it's funny how post-industrial age, post-60s, whatever, in American culture, English, maybe not English. Let's not go back to things. Let's talk about Americans and Indians. American culture, being dark has become a huge thing. Black culture, very big. It's the creative arts, this, that, whatever. Also, the fact that if you're dark as a white person, it means you can vacation. It means you can get time in the sun.
Yeah.
You are not...
It's a status symbol almost.
You're not in a cubicle, right?
Yeah.
Also, when I noticed in India, I was all these super rich ass Indians want to be white. I'm
Yeah.
It was weird association. Also, when I visited Goa in the south,
Yeah.
it's almost like halfway in the south, and
No, yeah.
you have the rich fair skinned people who go there for vacation, and then you have the working class, and it's like
The locals are dark skinned. They're
exactly the local dark skin. Well, Goa is a little different because it's got a different
it's
thing there.
mixed. Yeah.
But in general, in India, with the darkness of the north and the south, and even in black culture, I've heard from my friends. I have a few of them. They were just saying they get discriminated against about being too light skinned.
But like not on the basis of race, but on the basis of color.
Yeah, and what does that mean? And like
it's colorism.
But
That's
like,
a thing, though. Yeah.
But also, I'm not sure where your family's from, but you're pretty dark.
Yeah.
And what does that mean? Like, just because you're darker or lighter, like my brother can get darker in the sun than me.
I mean, it's like it's really really not complicated. I mean, maybe it's complicated how we got here, but the meaning of like why lighter is viewed one way and darker is viewed another way, I think is just so utterly stupid. It's like, we view, first of all, yeah, Indians, they want to be white. Literally, they want to be white. They
and
have
also Chinese people.
They have this thing called fairness cream. Yeah, as well. It's very popular. It's one of the most popular cosmetic products on the market in India that I can speak of. And you put it on and it makes you lighter, or it prevents you from getting darker. And it's because there's this like association that the more fair-skinned you are, the fucking prettier you are, the more in line you are.
So pretty.
But I think it's on the one hand, it's like maybe this is ancient. Maybe this goes back to the people of the sun. Or on the other hand, or maybe it's both, in Western culture, white people are on top. So in all these colonized countries, the people on top in the colonized countries, they want to resemble the people on top in the master countries. And the people on top of the master countries are light-skinned. So the people who want to be on top in the colonized countries, they want to be as light as possible. They want to resemble Caucasians as much as possible.
But so
and that's why they use fairness cream, and that's why there's this value in having fair complexion. And it's just disgusting, really. It's
let's take it back. Let's take it back a little bit. So, those people.
Which people?
I'm talking about ancient society, though. I feel like back in the day. Okay, so like we're going back towards a darkness, like where darkness is like luxurious, right? In the 1600s, fairness was luxurious, but also what about Egypt and what's her name?
Cleopatra. I don't know.
Was she dark? Was she dark? I don't know.
I don't know. I'm sure we could Google this and find out.
We're not going to Google this right now.
I would cast my lot.
We don't fact check here.
With fairness. Yeah, we refuse to fact check. As a matter of principle, we do not fact check.
We do not fact check.
But I think she was light skinned. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. And it just kind of gets me down because
don't get down.
There's no fucking rational basis for viewing light as better, dark as worse. And that's what we live and die by.
But I think this is the pinnacle and the crux that all of humanity is coming to right now, is that our biology is old school and our mentality, sociology, basically the equation is we're like a computer. Our hardware cannot keep up with our software.
Interesting.
And we're coming to this nexus where, like, where are we going to go from here? Right?
Yeah.
Like, I think my biggest thing is that you and I, we're of a similar age. We grew up in the I think I'm so happy about this. I'm like so privileged to think about this. Like, we grew up with Prodigy. We grew up with chat rooms. Like, we saw pre-internet,
kind of before and after.
And also,
we were in the doorway.
we saw internet, and we saw low-speed internet. We saw high-speed internet, and now we saw go F yourself everywhere internet.
Yeah,
and we're like,
it's so true.
It's so nice. It's like also
we're the witnesses. Like,
also, I just to be honest, everybody who's listening to this, you grew up in this generation that you have this special window where you have perspective on everything, and I feel like I got younger siblings. I got older siblings. Like we grew up in this special Goldilocks period of like information in our mind. Like it's a special thing. Like,
Yeah.
do you remember Syndicate? Did you ever play?
What was that? No.
Anyways, we're gonna because not many people were nerds like this. But there was a specific game. Like I had one of my best friends. He grew up down the street. His older brother is now like a NDA programmer with Google. He's